Hi everyone! I hope everyone's doing well today, and I hope everyone enjoyed the last story I read, Caps for Sale, one of my favorites. This week is so much fun sharing all of my favorite books with you. Today you're in for a treat because it's another one of my favorites, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. This is a really funny one, and they even have a movie version of it if you wanted to watch it and compare how it's a little bit the same and a little bit different than the book. Okay, let's get ready. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs by Judy Barrett. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could each eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling. And it landed right on Henry. Oh my goodness. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Oh my goodness, look at this. Whatever the weather served, that's what they ate, but it never rained rain. It never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup or juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas. And sometimes the winds blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they could always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they got hungry between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, the breakfast was usually coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterward. For lunch one day, frankfurters, already in their buns, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles per hour. There were mustard clouds nearby, and then the wind shifted to the east and brought in some baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. It's called Ralph's Roofless Restaurant. And you go and sit down and you eat whatever comes in the ceiling. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times, with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat, and the rest of the food was put back into the earth so the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Look, the garbage truck has a plate and a fork and a spoon. What a silly book. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. Spaghetti ties up the town. One day, there was nothing but stinky cheese all day long. The next day, there was only overcooked, soggy broccoli. And the next day, there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Yuck. Another day, there was a pea soup fog, and no one could see where they were going. And they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. Oh, my goodness. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting scared. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things were happening. On Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast, and most of it was larger than they'd ever seen bread before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs got damaged, and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards, and the birds picked at it a little bit, but it just stayed there and got stale. There was a storm of pancakes one morning, and the downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the whole school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a tummy ache. Then there was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and tomato pulp everywhere. Look, people are flying in the tornado. That guy's in the bath. Well, the sanitation department gave up. Their job was too big, Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time, and many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. Look at the size of those donuts. I kind of want to eat one. So, the decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. Look at that pickle. Oh my goodness. So, the people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style, with peanut butter. They took the absolute necessities, that's the things that they really, really need, and set sail on their rafts for a new place to live. After floating for almost a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses out of it. You see the houses made out of bread? Well, the children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it weird that all the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes and cans and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in refrigerators, and nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs, and no one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remembered his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside the window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we can go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell the mashed potatoes. Is that butter? What is it? Yeah, it's the sun. The end. I just love that story. Can you imagine going outside and it's raining orange juice and it's snowing mashed potatoes? That is crazy. I sent home some fun worksheets for you to do and some coloring sheets. And I think it would be fun if you guys thought about what would you like to come down from the sky instead of rain and snow? What would you think was fun? I think maybe teddy bears and candy. That would be a fun time. Okay, guys, enjoy your day. Have a lot of fun. Read, practice your name, practice your letters. And I'll see you tomorrow. Love you.